Gemar Chatima Tova, everybody. May you be sealed, you and everyone you love, for blessings in the year of 5782. How extraordinary and how perfect for us to enter into our Yom Kippur services this morning with those beautiful words. Or zarua latzadik, urishe lev simcha. Light is sown by the righteous, and for those who have thoughtful, aligned hearts. Thank you to Rachel Chang. We have the unbelievable good fortune that Rachel is our song leader here at Congregation Beit Simchat Torah for our Limud B'Shabbat program, which is our children's education program, K through teens. And raise your hand virtually or physically if Rachel has been your teacher and you were lucky enough to be in her classroom, or if you've gotten the chance to learn tefillah from Rachel online and in person over the past year. Rachel is a beloved member of our community. Thank you for making that gorgeous video, and thank you to your brother Brendan for all the video editing. That is some true magic. I'm Rabbi Yael Rapport, the Associate Rabbi here at CBST, and I'm so glad to see your faces. It is so, so nice to see so many of you with different haircuts in different grades than when I last saw you. And also welcome to everybody for whom it is your first time here at the LGBTQ Synagogue of New York City. We could not do this without Jennifer Kleinbaum, who is our fearless principal of the Limud B'Shabbat program, leading up all of our Families with Children's programs and holidays and observances and activities and adventures here at CBST. Our Zoom technician today is Rosemary Minkler, and it's really important to us to say thank you to everybody who keeps us zooming along so beautifully and seamlessly. Without you, we would not all be here. And thank you both to Stephen Figura-Smith, who you will see active in the chat. Stephen is our Aleph Bet Shabbat song leader and also a teacher in Limud B'Shabbat. And they have been leading Aleph Bet Shabbat over the past year. We are delighted that they will continue with their beautiful voice and their genius songbook over the course of the year for our youngest Jews, everybody who's 0 to 5 and the grownups you bring with you. And finally, Emily Kanarak, CBST Clergy Office Administrator, is here with us today as well, so that if you have any questions, if something isn't going perfectly right, or if you wonder a little bit more about something that we sang or said, or the story we told, you can put it in the chat, and somebody will respond to you immediately. And so we will take all of the different rooms that we are in, literally all across the world, and come together into one community. Hinema tov u'ma na'im. It is so good. It is so sweet. Shevet achim. When anybody who's a brother, wave at me if you're a brother. Shevet nashim. Anybody who's a sister, wave at me if you're a sister. Shevet kulanu. Anybody who's anybody. I want to see lots of waving right now. Everybody. It is so good and so sweet when we all sit together.
Nashim
During services this morning, we will be praying. It's a thing we do as Jewish community, especially on Yom Kippur, one of the highest, holiest days, the Yamim Noraim, the days that are awesome. And when we pray, we will sing. It's one of our favorite things to do at CBST, and we are so lucky to have brilliant teacher, musician, educator, artist to lead us in this. And it is also our tradition to tell stories. And so this morning, I have a Yom Kippur story with a challenge, because I think that this group of our CBST students is ready for not your average Yom Kippur story, and not your average way to think about what Yom Kippur and Teshuvah and the Yetzer Hara mean. So if some of those words aren't familiar to you, don't worry, they'll all come around. But I want you to sit back, take a deep breath, and settle in for a story to be transported somewhere else. There is only one of God, and there is only one of me. But sometimes I feel there are two voices calling me by name. Sometimes the world seems all warm and welcoming, and I can be soft and sweet. But sometimes the world seems like a jungle filled with wild and terrifying things, and I can be a wild thing too. The rabbis taught from many years ago that there is a Yetzer HaTov planted within you and me, an inclination, a deeply seated need to be good, to do good, a striving within us to be our best, a feeling in our hearts that we can heal the brokenness of the world and make it one. But those same rabbis of long ago taught us that there is a Yetzer Hara within us too, an inclination, a need, a desire to be wild, a silliness in our souls, a laziness about the needs of anyone other than ourselves. But to which voice shall we listen? Which inclination shall we let rule? Once upon a time, a long time ago, across the oceans and across the centuries, in the days of the Talmud, a group of the wisest, sagest rabbis sat down all around an enormous table. So much is broken in our land, one said by way of beginning. There is war and persecution, there is sickness and starvation. There are large problems and there are small ones, simple meanness and cruelty, ignorance and selfishness. What can we do to fix any of it? Another rabbi spoke up. None of these are new problems. They're ancient. There's never been a time since the world was created that evil was not in it. These are depressingly regular problems. There's no place on earth that doesn't know violence and disease and pain. These aren't only the problems of our land. These are the problems of the entire world, all of humanity. All of these problems stretch beyond us, and they will last longer than any of us. What is there to do? But a third rabbi pondered out loud, has anyone tried to fix the ultimate source of all these problems? The one thing that unites all of them? The other rabbis turned to her and asked what she meant. All of these things, all of the worst of human behavior, it's because of the Yetzer Hara that resides within us, that evil inclination, that need to do bad things, to be lazy or apathetic, to not care, or to put ourselves ahead of somebody else to make sure we win and somebody else loses. But what if we captured the Yetzer Hara? What if we cut it out once and for all and lived only in harmony with our Yetzer HaTov, the good part of us, the good and true and sweet and kind part of us? So the rabbis considered such a thing had never been done before, but what if it was so crazy it could work? What if they captured the Yetzer Hara itself and kept it from causing anybody any more harm? So they found the sturdiest box that had ever been made, and they reinforced it with bars of iron and magic charms. They all stood before the open ark, the Holy of Holies at the temple, and they prayed and they fasted for 3 days and for 3 nights, barely stopping for breath. We have a question for you, a challenge. What do you think the world would be like if there was no Yetzer Hara? What can you imagine about the world that it would be if nobody ever wanted to do bad things? Put it in the chat or unmute yourself to tell us. How do you think the world would be different? Or maybe it might be the same.
It would be better.
It would be better? What else? Tell me, how might it be better? Ooh, Judah says it would be very peaceful if the Yetzer Hara wasn't in the world.
It would be a great place to live.
It would be a great place to live without the Yetzer Hara. People would stop being bad.
No more war.
No more war. Julia Margot says it might be too perfect somehow. Yeah, Esther and Elliot think the world would be a kind place.
And also peace and love, and people may start helping each other and make good things peaceful and love in our hearts.
Peace. Lots of peace.
Everyone would be accepted.
Everyone would be accepted for who they are. There would be no more bullies and we'd all feel safer. The world would be a kind place, but there would not be balance. Does that mean there would be only harmony?
Everyone would pay attention.
Everybody would pay attention to the story. It might be a more respectful place, but can there be good without evil? There'd be no guns or cannons or knives for killing people. This is a very interesting world to consider. Keep your thoughts coming. I know that we asked a hard question and you had to respond immediately, but if you keep thinking about it, we still want to hear you. So put it into the chat. And in fact, we have another way that you can show us what you're thinking.
If people stop making knives, we would have trouble people couldn't get as much food. And
Yeah.
It would be hard to get through certain jungles and places.
For sure.
Exploring.
I mean, how would we eat? Well, I don't eat pizza with a knife and fork, but what if somebody did and then they couldn't get the pizza to their mouth? And that would be very, very sad. That would be a terrible place to live.
And if people needed to hunt and no one made guns because they couldn't afford food, they just had a gun. To get food, they would need guns. And if people didn't make guns, they wouldn't be able to get their food.
It's complicated, right? I mean, Acadia suggests we could all be vegetarians, but if you had like a really tough sweet potato, you would probably also need a knife. And there are some people here whose families eat pizza with a fork and knife. So we are well represented in the pizza department. It's interesting and complicated.
There's also the fact that it's not really the weapons that are doing the bad things.
True.
It's the people who wield them. So if you take out the Yetzer Hara in yourself, then you wouldn't have the urge to do the bad things.
And you would only use your knives for pizza.
I think also the problem is defining what bad things mean, because they're different for all people.
Right. But we could agree that good things are more sharing, people having enough home and food. This is what Hannah put into the chat. And the world wouldn't be in danger. You know, we are constantly doing things that harm the world as people. Jennifer, why don't you show us a great destination to keep this conversation going?
Sure. Well, this story is very interesting to me because the rabbis in this story saw that people didn't always make the right choices. And we're talking about a long time ago. We're talking about rabbis in a land that we are not familiar with. And they're talking about taking away that little voice, that Yetzer Hara. And you know what? Not sure if I should tell you this, but sometimes I've listened to that voice too. And I'd be willing to bet that Rabbi Rapport has sometimes listened to her Yetzer Hara. And I'll bet the grown-ups here have also done that once or twice over the course of the year. And how about you? I've created a way for us to share the different ways that our Yetzer Hara has pushed us, has told us to do things on a Jeopardy game board. And I thought I put the link in the chat. I'll show you how it works. Rosemary, if you can share your screen. So this is a Jeopardy board. It is the easiest Jeopardy you will ever play because it only has one question and you get to fill in all of the answers on the board. The question is, when have you listened to your Yetzer Hara? Big or small, we all make mistakes. What are some that you've made over the course of the year? So you have some categories. Maybe you've been acting wild and crazy. Maybe you've been silly or lazy or selfish or bossy. And Rosemary's going to show us how to use this Padlet. If you just go to the link and you click on the plus, and then you type inside the box whatever mistake you've made in the past year, whatever Yetzer Hara has whispered to you that you maybe weren't strong enough to push away. Maybe you were wild and crazy all day long. And if you just write, so as Rosemary is writing, acting too wild and crazy, she can just press submit. And then it will go onto the screen and we will approve it to go up on the board. So now you should all be able to see acting too wild and crazy. So I want you to think about some of the things that have happened to you this year, that you've done this year. I know this is a little strange because nobody can see what you write. This is anonymous. I can't see who is writing what, but some of you have grown
that it's
up.
Rosemary who was acting wild and crazy.
Yes, only because I told her to write that though. And sometimes your grown-ups might be close to you and maybe you don't want them to know exactly which box is yours. So grown-ups, I have a special question for you. One, you could look away or you could help to type. But I also just want to remind you that Yom Kippur is for everyone. And our grandparents and aunts and uncles and friends and parents have all of the same feelings about making mistakes as kids do. And it takes a really brave person to add something to this board. It takes a brave person to admit when you make a mistake, and it's part of tshuva. It's how we return to the path of our better selves. I don't know, Rosemary, if you need to refresh, if that will, there we go. So, some people are adding different things that have affected them over the course of the year. Someone was wild and crazy at their sleepaway camp. Someone was ignoring their parents. And someone says, when you stay in bed all morning and miss something important, maybe that's a little lazy. But you know what? I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want you to feel guilty. I don't want you to feel ashamed of any of these things. what I'd like you to do is just sit with the feeling of what it means to have listened to your Yetzer Hara. It affects everybody, and we're often trying to do something good, and it goes a little bit wrong. Sometimes our aim is a little off, but we missed the mark. Rosemary, if you could refresh again, just to see some more answers. You can also put something in the chat if the board isn't working for you.
I saw someone was trying to annotate lying, so I can add that in for them.
It's easiest if we stick to all the typing instead of all of the other things that Padlet lets us do. Just staff-wise, it makes it a little bit easier for us. But I see a lot of people are being brave. If only half of the people in this service write one thing, we'll have filled up the entire board. It's pretty amazing. And probably some of us have done more than one thing that we could admit. Even to ourselves, it's hard. Even to ourselves, it's hard to be brave. I see some people are procrastinating homework. Some people were telling jokes in class instead of listening. Someone was wasting water by staying in the shower too long, and the water turned cold because they were in there for so long. Some people aren't cleaning their room. Grown-ups, you should feel free to add anything on here that you would like to add. I'm sure your kids would be happy to type that in for you if you wanted to admit something too. Yeah, I got upset and didn't share my feelings. Well, I want to say thank you, because sharing in this particular way takes a lot of bravery. The Yetzer Hara really pushes us sometimes. And today, and when we hear the rest of the story, we're going to learn more about what to do so we could be more successful in overcoming these challenges, and how we can figure out what it is that we can do, and how to not get bogged down in the feelings that we might have, so that we don't have to hide or lie or feel terrible. We want to be able to lift that off of us, and Rabbi Rapport and Rachel are going to help us do that. So thank you for sharing. This is going to stay up, so you can share on it for as long as you'd like. And thank you very much. It was really brave.
One of the things that we hope that Teshuvah, that this process of admitting, being honest, being accountable, that somebody can count on you to try to fix the mistakes that you've made. One of the things that we hope with our Teshuvah, with this return and answering, is that the whole world becomes a little bit better. The whole world becomes a little bit more like the way we were imagining that a beautiful world could be, with harmony, with people being kind to each other, no jail, more teamwork, people not getting hurt, everybody being respectful and feeling safe. This is the kind of world that we all work towards. Every time we pick up a piece of trash, or we go to a protest, or even though we're feeling kind of hungry and grumpy, we take a deep breath and are kind to the person who's asking for directions, or whatever it is. All of these little acts help us letaken et ha'olam, to repair our broken world. And we know there's a lot of brokenness in it. So Rachel's going to lead us in a beautiful song for the blessing that we say when we're about to do an action that helps to mend the world. And I'd love to hear from you. Put into the chat, what are big or small things that you've been doing to mend the world? What are times that you've been listening to your Yetzer HaTov and trying to make the world a little bit better, even if it's just for only one other person, or even if nobody else can see it? And we've already got recycling as a great start. Go ahead, Rachel, and keep it coming, friends.
So
the first few words of the song are just na, na, na. So if that's not too complicated, you can sing along. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Try that with me. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Let's do that again. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Repeat after me. Baruch atah Adonai. Baruch atah Adonai. Eloheinu melech haolam. Eloheinu melech haolam. Baruch atah Adonai. Your turn. Baruch atah Adonai. Eloheinu melech haolam. Eloheinu melech haolam. Shenatan lanu hizdamnut. Shenatan lanu hizdamnut. Litaken et haolam. Litaken et haolam. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Last time. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na.
There are some pieces of music that we get to say every day of the year. You can sing the Nana song. You can say that blessing for repairing the world multiple times a day. Every time you donate food to the food pantry, or clean up something, or hold the door for somebody, we say blessings to remind ourselves that we're doing this on purpose. We're doing this for a greater goal of making the world a more wonderful place. But there are some pieces of Jewish music that you only get to hear once or twice a year. And that's why the high holidays are so special to so many of us. You know, some of us choose to dress in all white, which is a custom for the high holidays to say that we are trying to be our best. Some of us choose not to wear leather shoes so that we aren't gaining any benefit from an animal suffering. My shoes are made of grocery bags, which I think is very cool, but lots of different versions of that work. Some of us are not eating today or practicing other forms of fasting, such as, you know, not checking our email or not doing something that would distract us, maybe give us pleasure, but we're dedicating this day to our focus to remind ourselves that we have so many blessings in our lives that it gives us the clarity, the sharpness of vision to say that not everybody has all of those blessings, and we need to do these things on purpose, not just mechanically, whether that's eating or holding the door for kindergartners. One of these very beautiful pieces of music that's supposed to wake us up and remind us that this is a unique and special day on the Jewish calendar is a repeated tune that over and over again through these high holy days, we hear set to different words. And so we're going to do that for the Baruch Hu, for the call to prayer this morning. And I invite you, if you like, to actually stand up, actually rise with your bodies, whether that means taking like a stretch break or standing up and flopping forward. and I will sing the music first as in nigun, which means a song without words, just like the na song, na 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 na. And then I'm going to apply that same High Holy Day music that we only get to hear on these 2 times of the Jewish year to our call to prayer, our Baruch Hu. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamevorach, Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Le'olam Va'ed. And one of these precious sets of words to us that we set to many melodies that we express in many different languages are the words of the Shema, which means to really listen and focus to that good inclination that's within us, or at least to try to figure out where we're balancing between the Yetzer HaTov and the Yetzer Hara. This morning, as we recite the Shema together, inviting everybody to sit back down if you were standing, get really comfortable so that you can focus. Rachel is going to be singing the words in Hebrew, and Jennifer and I will be translating them into American Sign Language. We know that so many of you can recite the Shema along with us in American Sign Language. So feel free to do that in your own Zoom box, or if there's another language that you recite Shema in, go right ahead. And then the second part of the Shema, what we call the Ve'ahavta, you shall love Adonai, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your being. That we're going to do in our native language, in English. So we'll be sharing the words on the screen for you to follow along. And hopefully we'll be able to see Rachel and me and Jennifer all at the same time.
Adonai
So let's keep telling the story. You remember where we left off, that the rabbis had decided to capture the Yetzer Hara, and they had found the sturdiest box they could find, and they had even reinforced it, and they stood before the open ark, just like on Yom Kippur. And just like on Yom Kippur, they prayed and they fasted, but this was for 3 days and 3 nights. They barely stopped for breath. And at the end of that 3rd night, just as the first rays of sunlight began to pierce the sky, the Yetzer Hara appeared. I'd love to know what you think it might have looked like. The Talmud describes it as a fiery lion with a roaring its terrible roar and gnashing its terrible teeth and rolling its terrible eyes. What do you think Yetzer Hara might look like if you called upon it, if it came to meet you face to face? You can put it in the chat if you like. The Yetzer Hara answered the rabbi's call, and it was terrifying in its shape. But the rabbis persevered, never wavering, and slowly it weakened to the point where they could force it into the enormous box that they had made. And as the lid slammed shut, the Yetzer Hara emitted one last terrible shriek. "You'll be sorry. Realize that if you kill me, the world is destroyed." And the rabbis laughed breathlessly in their joy and exhaustion. Destroyed? We do this for the goodness of the world. We will see a new world of happiness without any evil inclinations to do harm. The world will be rebuilt with love, far from destroyed. And that giant tarantula with 16 eyes, or maybe that black shadowy spirit, was slammed into the box. And all was quiet. The world remained quiet for 3 full days. All of the wars ceased. There wasn't even a single disagreement. Peace reigned. But on that fateful 4th morning, one of the rabbis went out to gather eggs from his chickens, and he was astonished to find that no eggs had been laid at all in those whole 4 days. In fact, once the news spread, it was realized that there was not one single new egg in all of Israel. Upon further investigation, the rabbis reconvened. Whispers rocketed around the table. Not only throughout the whole country had no new eggs been laid by any chickens, a single baby hadn't been born in 4 days, human or any animal species. There hadn't been a single wedding. No new houses had been built, no new music had been written. And in fact, what the rabbis realized is that not a single person had dreamed for the past 4 days. It was too much to be a coincidence, they realized. They themselves were the source of this freezing in time, this stagnation. Without Yetzer Hara, there was no dissatisfaction, there was no desire, there was no want. And so nobody changed anything. Nobody wondered what could be better or different. No one felt any need to try anything new. No one felt that push to discover a new scientific advancement or to better the place that they lived or the community that they were part of, to repair even their house, or to repair on a bigger level any kind of broken system. No one bothered to take any chances. The Yetzer Hara, the rabbis realized, wasn't an evil inclination. It was humans' creativity. It was their willingness to take a risk and try something new, even if it might not work. It was stubbornness, but also that kind of persistence where you don't give up on something, even when it's hard, and you say it could still be better, instead of, well, I guess it could just go on the same. It was competition, but in the way that you imagine that you get adrenaline and excitement and happiness from working so hard to achieve. And all of these things were gone. And so was imagination. The idea that you believe you could do something new. All of that was locked away with the Yetzer Hara, which may have looked like a Dementor or a red-orange butterfly or an enormous shadow with 3 red eyes and an evil grin. Maybe it appeared as a cute animal, but when you get closer, it turns everything cold and dark. But there was something humming from inside the box. And that humming was music, new music that nobody had ever heard. And so what could the rabbis do? In fact, it was true. Without the Yetzer Hara, the world would be finished because nothing would ever change. And so the rabbis opened the box and let the Yetzer Hara go. And as it slunk away into the wilderness, swishing its tail, or maybe it just disappeared in a cloud of smoke, or maybe it flew away or tunneled into the ground. It can take many shapes. As the Yetzer Hara left, the rabbis heard the musical notes of a rooster's crow. And inside the chicken coop, a hen snuggled down into her nest and laid an egg.
Well, that's not how I thought the story was going to end. The rabbis realized that the Yetzer Hara, that voice inside ourselves, can also be used to do important things and good things. That was very interesting, Rabbi. Thank you for sharing that story with us. I guess we can think of it as a balancing act, like shifting our perspective to think of things in a new way. Maybe all of the kids and all of the grown-ups that are available can help me fill up another Jeopardy board. I have another question for you. Now that you know how to do it, and you can also put things into the chat. Rosemary, maybe if you could share the screen again. So in this question, I want to see if you can figure out when your Yetzer Hara has helped you to do something important or to do something good. And I've given you a few clues. So for example, if in the previous Jeopardy board, you said that you were a little wild and crazy, let's say that helped you feel very energetic, and that helped you exercise and get outside. So if your goal was to get outside a lot and to do some exercise that's great for your body, then maybe your Yetzer Hara, having you be a little bit wild, helps you get to that point. And you just have to balance how far that wildness can go. So maybe you can help me out. That's the first column, things that, ways that you were wild, but also that might have helped you take risks or try new things. In the next column, maybe being silly is actually really a helpful way to give you a sense of humor, for you to be fun and imaginative, creative, artistic. There's so many different ways that we can balance this different kind of thinking. Let's see, lazy and stubborn can be determined, very patient, calm. And maybe if somebody said you were selfish or you felt like you were selfish, maybe you can turn that into being confident and taking care of yourself and independent. Maybe if somebody called you bossy or nosy, maybe you can turn that into the balancing act of lightening it up to be making sure you're honest and curious. Maybe people who are very argumentative can be very good negotiators. And I'll bet a lot of you have had these kinds of experiences. And I want you to think about how those things you might have thought were negative can actually be turned into positive actions. Rosemary, you might have to refresh your screen for us to see some new ideas. And if you put them in the chat, that's also fine. Yeah, so somebody said if they're silly and they cheer someone up, it makes them laugh and they feel better. I'll bet that makes both people feel better. That's definitely something that I can relate to. And yeah, if there was no humor, the world would be pretty dull. And I think that's exactly what the rabbis found out when they trapped the Yetzer Hara away. The world was pretty dull. Let's see. Someone was trying to ride a bike and they were very, very stubborn about it. And you could use that word stubborn in both ways. The Yetzer Hara might make you turn that all the way into not doing something, but sometimes it makes you do something that you actually really wanted to do anyway. Someone was helping their friend pass out papers because they had a broken wrist. That's definitely something that is not a selfish act. Is a very caring for your friends, and it takes a confident friend to do that and stand up. Someone else wrote that I ask my friend if something's wrong and I listen to what they have to say. That is really hard to do. Listening
I was the
is.
one who did that. I helped my friend pass out papers because he has the broken wrist.
That's great. I'm really glad to hear about all of these mitzvot, all of these good deeds that people are doing, and it's very interesting how we can sort of bring that Yetzer Hara, you know, the little voice in our ear that tells us, just do this one little thing, just go a little bit farther. That if we can just keep that in check, it's something we need. Without it, there's no dreams, no creativity, no art. And the other thing I want to do is I want to say that as you're writing and as you're sort of thinking about, you know, the past year and yourself and your friends, I want you to know that sometimes if you are wild, too wild, sometimes if you are selfish or you're nosy or bossy, I want you to know that these are things that happen to everyone. These are things that happen when you're aiming in one direction and you don't quite make it where you're going, you veered off this way. And luckily, Yom Kippur is the holy day that helps us think about these things and veer back onto our path. It helps us return again to that path that we wanted to be on. And we get to do it every single year. And to be honest, and you can ask some of the grown-ups in your life, sometimes when you try to improve at one of these things, for example, being a procrastinator, it might take you a year or 2 or 10 or 1,000,000. And you might have to work on that particular thing your whole entire life. But lucky for us, the Yom Kippur comes every single year and we get to try it again. We get to try to improve ourselves and try to grow. And so I think that's why it's so important. Yom Kippur returns again and again each year to give us another chance, to give us a second chance and a third chance. And I believe very strongly in giving people chances. And I think most strongly in giving ourselves a chance and forgiving ourselves and letting ourselves grow and change. So you can keep adding to the Jeopardy sheet. I see so many interesting things. I can't read them all, but you can keep adding, and I will share them with those of you that are in the service if you'd like to see them later on, and they'll stay up for a little while. So thank you again. It's very brave to share.
I did a lake cleanup with my school.
A lake cleanup?
Huh?
Yeah, that sounds like, that actually sounds like fun to me, but it's definitely something that has to get organized, that people have to think about what was in the lake. You know, someone had to be selfish and throw something and litter something in order for you to come around and pick it back up again.
There were a lot of plastic bottles.
Yep, that happens. Well, thank you for sharing.
I also wanted to highlight what Ilaria said in the chat, that Yom Kippur is important so that we can see the progress that we've made. So it doesn't feel like just endless, but never getting there. If you look back at these certain year marks, you say, wow, a lot has happened that maybe I'd even forgotten had happened, since so much is always happening. We come now to our Mi Chamocha prayer. This is a song that asks, who is like you, God? We believe that we are each images of God. And so if there's some Yetzer Hara in us and some Yetzer Hatov, and there's also some Yetzer Hara in God, and there's also some Yetzer Hatov. And Yom Kippur is an important day for God to be reminded about the best and the most honest and the most upright inclinations. But we can't decide how to move forward in this service unless you help us. It's very, very important. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck here at Mi Chamocha forever. So Rachel, what should people do to help you decide which version of the Mi Chamocha are we doing?
All right, so we have two choices for our Mi Chamocha. We can do Mi Chamocha in a minor key, or we can do Mi Chamocha in a major key. So if you want to hear Mi Chamocha in the minor key, then let's see some waves with our hands. And if you want to hear Mi Chamocha in the major key, let's see some bouncing up and down. All right, I see a lot of good waves and I see a lot of good bouncing. It looks like our winner for today is our major key, so we'll save the minor key for another time. All right, Mi Chamocha.
Well, for those of you who were hoping to hear something in a minor key, don't you worry, the very next thing is. And I am so grateful that we have some student readers who are going to give our prayers a voice. We're moving into a section of the service called the Amidah, which means this is the thing that we say usually when we're standing. So another opportunity for a stretch break. please, please, please stand up, or let your spirit stand up. And I want to call on a couple of our students to read the English translation of our Amidah. Right now, we're in a prayer called the Avot V'Imahot, which means we are addressing the God of our ancestors. So I am going to start us off in a minor key by singing this opening prayer, Adonai Sefatai Tiftach, and then I would like Gabe to read this first section. Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Adonai, Sefatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Okay, Gabe, will you translate this part of the prayer for us?
May the one who blessed our parents and their parents from long, long ago bless our lives too. May we know God as Abraham, our father, did, and face our trials with great dignity. Like our mother Sarah, may we be gracious and kind to those who pass our way. May we be as gentle as Isaac and as determined as Rebecca. Like Jacob, may we be dedicated and conscientious in all we set out to do. And like Rachel, may we radiate warmth from our soul to everyone whose life touches ours. May we be blessed as Leah was blessed with a close and loving family. For Bilhah and Zilpah, may we honor all constellations of families of origin and choice.
Beautiful, Gabe. Beautiful, beautiful reading. And thank you, Lori, for the help. I'm going to sing this blue part in Hebrew because it's special. We only do it on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And then I'm going to ask Isaac to translate it into English and to close our prayer. Zochreinu lechaim, melech hafetz b'chaim, v'chotvenu b'sefer hachaim, lemancha Elohim chayim. Okay, Isaac, who's named for one of our ancestors.
Remember us, O God, who celebrates all life, and write our names in the book of life. For your sake, O God of life.
Keep going, Isaac. You're doing great.
Blessed are you, Adonai, who watched over and protected Abraham and Sarah, our mothers and our fathers, our ancestors from long ago, who watches us over us now too.
Thank you. So I'm going to close the prayer, and then I will ask Ilaria to read this interpretation that maybe can help us understand a little more closely even with all of the very impressive words that Adam and Gabe recited. I'm sorry, that Gabe and Isaac recited. I was thinking about Adam, who's probably hiding somewhere behind the Zoom screen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Be'ezrat Sarah. Okay, Ilaria, can you see the whole gray box? Maybe you have to move your Zoom ribbon a little bit.
Okay. Our family is an old one, stretching back, generation after generation after generation. Our story is made up of chapters that are filled with adventure, pain, love, and faith. Today, all over the world, our diverse, beautiful family stands in congregations like this one, saying the words that link us to all people who have come before us. We hope that you are here with us. After all, you are a member of our family too.
Thank you, Ilaria. Beautiful. And so now we're entering into a part of the service where we do think about the Hebrew word chet, which has been kind of the topic that we're discussing the whole morning. These chances and opportunities when we missed marks. So Jennifer's going to describe that a little bit more for us.
So in a few minutes, we're going to continue reading and singing about some of those times that we messed up. In Hebrew, the word is chet. Can you guys say chet? It has the ch sound, chet. I can see that you're doing it correctly. Thank you, Isaac. A chet is like if you were an archer. If you had a bow and an arrow and you were aiming at your target and you missed the bullseye. Maybe you even missed the target altogether. That's the translation for the word chet. That is when we miss the mark. We're aiming for one thing and we miss it. We don't quite measure up to what we wanted to do in the first place. And so we're going to keep returning to this idea, just like every year we return to Yom Kippur. And we're going to talk about things in slightly different ways with slightly different words. And I actually have, and I wanted to very quickly say that in science, they would often call these negative feelings that we have about ways we made a mistake. They might call it an adaptation, a way for our bodies to remind us that, to force us to rethink something. So if we feel bad about it, it makes us think again about it. And maybe it makes us reflect and change. Maybe it helps us say, I'm sorry, and forgive ourselves for doing it. And then after all of that's happened, you can let go of those feelings. You can move on. You can continue again in that year, in the next year, and get your second chance or third chance or 10th chance, or however many chances you need. Yom Kippur comes every single year. I have, there's a science, an engineer that in my family we've been watching a lot of, and I wanted to share a little piece of wisdom that I learned from him last week. His name is Mark Rober. He's a NASA engineer who's turned inventor and YouTuber. He explains and teaches a lot of popular science concepts and physics. In this case, what he was saying really reminded me of Yom Kippur, and I wanted to share with you a quick game, and then I'm gonna play. I have to ask Rosemary to play the clip. So here's the quick game. I want everybody to think of a number that I'm thinking of between 1 and 100. Just put it in the chat, or you can say it out loud, or you can put up your fingers if you have that many fingers. Just whatever number you think, between 1 and 100. All right, 12, 17, nope, it's higher than that. 57, lower than that, lower than 100. Ooh, 37 was close. 99, it's not 70,000. It's only between 1 and 100. Ooh, those of you in the 30s, Okay, you're getting real close. Oh, I see it. I think it's Aaron who got the number. I don't know if this is backwards for you guys or not, but all right. So you got it. The number was 32. Excellent. You win a magic prize, 100 internet points. Mazel tov. All right. Now we're going to play the game again. Are you ready? Okay. Now I'm going to think of a number between 1 and 100, and I want you to guess what it is. Can you figure out what number I'm thinking of between 1 and 100? I think a lot of people are getting it right in the chat. It is indeed 77.
77.
How did you know? I mean, everyone won. Everybody got 100 internet points.
And you're showing it up.
Because
I'm showing you the answer. Okay.
you're showing us the answer.
So which game would you rather play? Would you rather play guessing what number when I don't tell you the answer? Or would you rather guess where you know you're going to win? 100% chance that you can get the answer right. I see somebody said it was too easy. All right, so yeah, so it's not really guessing if you know you're going to win, right? If you know that there's no obstacles in your way, you can sail to the end of the game and that's it. So I think a lot of people are saying they like it better when they don't know the answer and it's an actual guessing game. In fact, it's not really a game if everybody wins and there's no obstacle, there's no challenge to it. You don't feel like you actually got the answer if I gave it to you already. So now we're going to watch a little clip from my favorite YouTube engineer, and he's going to tell us about a game that I also used to play when I was little that taught me about games and a little bit about tshuva as well.
Different than us. I'd like to tell you about a plumber I first met when I was 8 years old. He was Italian. When Super Mario Brothers came out, my friends and I became obsessed. Like, we wanted to get to the castle and rescue the beautiful Princess Peach from the evil Bowser. We get to school and ask each other, like, dude, what level did you make it to? Did you pass the game? We never asked each other about details on all the different ways we might have died. When it comes to games like this, no one ever picks up a controller for the first time, and then after jumping into a pit thinks, I'm so ashamed, that was such a failure, and they never want to try again, right? What really happens is they think, oh, I've got to remember, there's a pit right there. So I think next time I'm going to come out with a little more speed, I'm going to jump a little bit later. The focus and the obsession is about beating the game, not how dumb you might look if you get hit by a sliding green shell. And as a direct result of that attitude, of learning from but not being focused on the failures, we got really good, and we learned a ton in a very short amount of time. We were the right side of this graph. This is what I call the Super Mario effect, focusing on the princess and not the pits to stick with the task and to learn more. This caused me to reflect and realize that there were lots of other examples from my own personal experience where this attitude of life gamification, this Super Mario effect, led to more success and therefore more learning.
And we can stop there, Rosemary. So that was the same concept using Super Mario Brothers as an example. And again, sort of my point of you don't have to focus on the mistakes that you make all the time. That would be really depressing and your feelings would be very, very low all the time. It is okay to have those feelings. In fact, we bring them to the surface every year at Yom Kippur when we reflect on them. But this is the time that we get to really focus on them. And we don't have to focus on them all year. Otherwise, we'd never really get to save the princess. We'd never really get to the end of the game. We'd never get to flag at the end of the raceway. So the other thing that I learned from Mark Rober is that when video game engineers were creating video games, they used to be in arcades and you have to put money in them in order to play them. And their job was to get you to play as many times as possible. And people just thought they were playing a game. And when you lost, it would say game over. And for most people, they would say, game over, I guess it's the next person's turn. I'm gonna go away now. Then they got really smart. Instead of writing game over, they wrote continue with a little question mark. And now everybody said, I didn't know that was an option to keep going. And they would put in another quarter, or they would say, hold on, it's still my turn. I still want to keep playing. And they would keep trying over and over again until they usually ran out of money. But this idea that we get to continue, it's not game over. If you make a mistake, if you hurt your friend's feelings, if you don't share, if you littered, if you, no matter what thing that you might feel you need to think about on this Yom Kippur, no matter how bad it is, no matter how small it is, no matter whom it had to do with, you get to continue. You get to come back and try again. And every year you're going to get to try again and again and again. And so failure or making mistakes or having doing a chet is not the end. The failure is actually part of the learning. And without the failure, you couldn't have learned how to do it better. How can you be a good friend if you didn't make a few mistakes along the way? And at the end, when we're trying to look at our lives every year, every Yom Kippur, we'll want to see that we've overcome our challenges, that we've really achieved something. I'm going to show you just one more slide. This is a very funny picture that I saw that has two images. One is what you would like to happen. Everybody would usually like their life plan to go smoothly, ride your bike to the checkered flag, and everything works out fine. But in reality, that's not really what happens. There's a pit of rocks that you have to jump over, then you have to go along a skinny bridge, then you have to avoid the water pit. There's all sorts of things that can happen to you. But if you fell into the pit of rocks, what do? You just jump higher next time. If you fall again, maybe this time you learn to go around. And so every time you come to an obstacle, you get to figure out how to get over it, how to get around it, how to get through it, so that you can get to that flag at the end. And just like the guessing game that we played in the beginning, you might think that you want the plan to be the top box, easy sailing to the answer. But really, it's much more fun and it's much more satisfying and meaningful if you have obstacles in your way and you have challenges in your life and you're able to figure out how to overcome them and to grow and to learn and to be a better person.
So these challenges in Hebrew are chata'im. There are times when we could have done better. We know it. And next time we'll aim differently. A very important part of Yom Kippur, something that we've actually already done together, is making a communal, that means all of us so that nobody feels singled out, recitation, saying out loud in public of our chata'im. And this is what it felt like when you were looking at the Padlet and saw that somebody else had the same Yetzer Hara inclination that you did. It makes you feel less alone, makes you feel a little bit more normal and included. And so at the beginning, when we were doing that sharing of our chata'im, the places we had missed the mark, we were saying, I did this, I did that. And now we're going to do it all together. We, all of us, have probably at some point over the past year told a lie, and we're sorry. We, all of us, at some point over the past year have been selfish, and we're sorry. And this is our chance to see our progress and to reset ourselves so that as we continue, we don't do it again. The way this is going to work is that Rachel is going to teach you the English version of this prayer. And then I am going to need some readers to help me with a poem version of our chata'im. I'll be singing in Hebrew, but if you put your name in the chat, Jennifer will call on people to read different parts of this poem. We're going to start with Juliette Margot. So I have one person loaded already. Put your name in the chat, and especially if you haven't read already, Jennifer will call on you for each part of the prayer.
So we'll start by singing Tap Your Heart. And as we do this, you can take your hand and turn it into a fist and gently tap your heart as we go, as if we're just gently knocking and telling our hearts to open up. Tap, tap, tap your heart. Tap, tap, tap your heart. Tap, tap, tap your heart. On a Yom Kippur, it's time to restart.
Okay, I'd like you to repeat each Hebrew word after me. For those of you who have been learning your Hebrew letters, you're going to realize that they're in alphabetical order. And Rachel is going to be your voice to help you pronounce all of the Hebrew words. Ashamnu,
Ashamnu,
Bagadnu,
Bagadnu,
Gazalnu,
Gazalnu,
Dibarnu Dofi,
Tibarnu Zofi,
Evinu,
Havinu,
Behir Shanu,
Behir Shanu,
Zadnu,
Zadnu,
Hamasnu,
Hamasnu,
Tafalnu Shaker.
Tafanu Shaker.
All right, Juliet Margot, you will be the first to translate that into English. Go from the chorus all the way to H. Starting up here.
I did it. I'm sorry. Next year I'll be good. I'll try to be better and do what I should. There's no one to blame. The fault was all mine. Forgive me, I won't do the same things next time. I ate all the cake Mama saved for our guests. I broke her blue vase and I left a big mess. I cried, kicked, and screamed till I got my own way. I didn't clean up my old clothes for 12 days. I erased the great novel that Daddy was writing. I frightened the cat with my scratching and biting. I gossiped and told tales that I knew were not true. I happened to fill Susie's slippers with glue.
Beautiful.
Tap, tap, tap your heart. Tap, tap, tap your heart. Tap, tap, tap your heart. On a Yom Kippur, it's time to restart.
All right, repeat in Hebrew after me with Rachel. Yatsnura,
Yatsnura,
Kizavnu,
Kizavnu,
Latsnu,
Latsnu,
Maradnu,
Maradu,
Niavnu,
Yavnu,
Sararnu,
Saranu,
Avinu.
Avinu.
Okay, Jen, who is reading our chorus and our next verse?
Hannah's up next.
Go for it, Hannah. Read our chorus.
I did it. I'm sorry. Next year I'll be good. I'll try to do better and do what I should. There's no one to blame. The fault was all mine. Forgive me. I won't do the same things next time. I ignored the advice of my parents and teacher. teachers. I jumped on the bed with my wet, dirty sneakers. I knew it was wrong, but it seemed like such fun. I lied just a bit when they asked what I'd done. I misbehaved terribly during the year. I nagged at my parents, nearly drove them to tears. I organized protests to close down the school.
And do you see? Yeah, there you go.
I can't really see the rest
Oh
of it.
no. All right. Beautiful reading. Thank you, Hannah. I pushed when they quite clearly told me to pull.
Tap, tap, tap your heart. Tap, tap, tap your heart. Tap, tap, tap your heart. On a Yom Kippur, it's time to restart.
Ashanu,
Yashanu,
Sararnu,
Saranu,
Kishinu Oref,
Kishinu Oref,
Rashanu,
Rashanu,
Shichadnu,
Shihanu,
Tiavnu,
Tianu,
Tainu,
Tainu,
Titanu.
Titanu.
All right, Jenna, who's our next reader? And then I have one thing that I'm saving for another special person.
Isaiah, will you read for us?
Here to here.
Oh, we can't quite.
hear you.
Be better and do what I should.
No. But it looks like you're reading beautifully in your own house. Jennifer, is there another reader, and we will save Isaiah for a later part?
Yes. Let's see. Yes. Great.
Can
Yeah,
I read?
you can
next
read now, and then we'll come. Oh, I think I called on. Is it Ellie?
Eli.
Eli. Oh, sorry. There we go. Eli, will you read?
I did it. I'm sorry. Next year I'll be good. I'll try to be better and do what I should. There's no one to blame. The fault was all mine. Forgive me. I won't do the same things next time. I quacked like a duck while the teacher was talking. I ranted and raved with a cacophonous squawking. I said I would do things, but I never did do them. I told tales of lost homework and doggies that chew them. I used Tommy's toys that he said not to touch. I vanished before I could help very much. I walked uninvited through Miss Katz's yard. I X'd out the F's from my last year's report card. I yelled till I made all the neighbors' ears sore. I zoomed on the bike, crossed the fresh painted floor.
Thank you, Eli. If Isaiah wants to try again for the closing verse, you are welcome to, but no pressure. We know you have a beautiful voice and are a very good reader.
Okay, we're gonna do it without the video, if that's okay.
No problem.
Are we up to the, I did it, I'm sorry, this
Yeah.
right here, bud.
I did. I'm sorry. Next year I'll be good. I'll try to be better, do what I should. There's no one to blame. The fault was all mine. Forgive me. I won't do the same things next time.
Way to go, Isaiah. And thank you, Eli. Beautiful, beautiful reading. This is the way that we close our recitation of the things that we communally can say we all have made these mistakes, even if you didn't necessarily quack like a duck while the teacher was talking. This is to make the person who did feel a little less alone. We say, for all of these, God of forgiveness, forgive us. We help us to repent, help us to do better. Ve'al kulam Eloha salichot selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu ve'al kulam Eloha salichot selach lanu mechalanu selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu. And we continue with our service. We are most of the way through, beginning to finish up as we enter into a time for individual prayer. And this is to say that there might be experiences that we share, but sometimes we need to have a private conversation with God, just one-on-one. And that's why we always build in a little private time to each of our services. And so I have one more thing that I would love a reader for, and I heard that Gemma has graciously volunteered. Gemma is going to read us the words of Avinu Malkeinu. The word Avinu means parent, and the word Malkeinu means ruler. And then Rachel is going to lead us in the singing of this beautiful song. So Gemma, let's make sure that you can see the whole thing. That good?
Yeah. Avad Maku, hear our voice. Avad Maku, we have missed the mark before you. Avad Maku, have compassion on us and on our families. Avad Maku has helped us an end to sickness, violence, and hunger. Avad Maku, let our hands overflow with your blessings. Avad Maku, help us write our names in the book of lives as well lived. Avad Maku, kanu vagnu.
Gemma, I am so impressed with you. You're reading the Hebrew. That didn't even stop you. So Rachel is going to help us so we know how to pronounce all of these Hebrew words. And Gemma, will you read this last line, Avinu Malkeinu?
Okay. Avinu Malkeinu, answer us with patience as we learn and grow. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Gorgeous. Thank you, Gemma.
Repeat after me. Avinu Malkeinu. Try that. Avinu Malkeinu. Avinu Malkeinu. Again. Avinu Malkeinu. Avinu Malkeinu. Avinu Malkeinu. Chonei
So now we're going to take just 1 minute. It's a very short conversation, but 1 minute of quiet within ourselves while Rachel plays the beautiful music of Avinu Malkeinu to help us have this conversation with ourselves or with God. What progress have you made this year? What are your hopes and your prayers for the year to come? What will you do to make the world a better place for you and those you love? One more thing, the last thing basically that happens in every service where Jewish people gather together is we make space for memory. We honor all of those people, those who were related to us and those who we pulled into our families, even though we were not born related to them. Those we admire, even though we never knew them. And all of those, because everybody deserves someone to remember them. All of those who we say Kaddish on their behalf. The Kaddish is a Jewish prayer for memory. And what I'd like you to do is if you're remembering someone this Yom Kippur, it doesn't have to be somebody who died in the last year. It can be somebody who's very close to you or very far away from you. At CBST, we also honor the important animals in our lives. And so if there's an animal who held a very special place in your life that you are remembering and missing right now, their name is also welcome. Put into the chat, who are you remembering and who were they to you? So it's not just a name, but we know how you belonged to each other. We'll invite you to recite Kaddish along with me. We're going to put the words up on the screen so that everybody can follow along. And there are some Jewish communities where the custom is to be standing for all of Kaddish, and there are some where you are sitting. And there's some where you recite every single word along with the rabbi, and there's some where you only recite the part that says congregation. And so that's up to you. But this is a very special Kaddish because we repeat one of the words. It makes it different from any other Kaddish we say during the year. We say La'ela, La'ela birchata v'shirata. It is beyond the number of blessings that we know, that we have experienced from knowing this person. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon, uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, va'agala uvizman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach leolam u'almei almaya, yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalel v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha brichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, da'amiran ve'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, amen. May all of these souls May all of these people that we have named in the chat, may all of these beloved animals, may all of these souls be remembered with blessing and the blessings that they brought to our lives. May they know peace, and may we who love them know peace. And because the words of the Kaddish end with a prayer for peace, Oseh Shalom Bimromav, may the one who makes peace in heavens make us makers of peace here on earth. Make us people who can channel both our Yetzer HaTov and our Yetzer Hara to make the world a more beautiful, peaceful place. Please, please give us that blessing and let us bring that blessing to others. We have to decide, however, the way we want to sing. And so Rachel is going to give you 2 choices.
All right, so would you like to hear the Oseh Shalom that is fast and upbeat, which some of us heard during Rosh Hashanah? Or would you like to hear the one that's slow and beautiful? So if you'd like to hear the one that's slow and beautiful, you can stand up and do some twisting with your arms from side to side. Or if you'd like to hear the one that's fast and upbeat, let's see some jumping jacks. Let's see what we've got. Oh, I see some twisting and I see some jumping jacks. It's going to be a really close vote. I see some really good jumping jacks from Isaac and Ruth. I see some really good twisting from Audra. All right, it looks like we have a winner for our upbeat and fast one again. Thank you everyone for voting. Let's do this a little higher. Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'imru Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'imru Shalom Bimromav, Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'imru Amen.
Thank you, Rachel. That was beautiful. This has been quite a service today. Some of you know me and some of you don't. In addition to being a Jeopardy fan, a Super Mario Brothers player, and a game lover all around, I'm also the principal of CBST's religious school, Limud B'Shabbat. And if you are in kindergarten all the way up to high school, you could join us over the course of the year when we learn together on Shabbat at CBST. This year, we're going to start our sessions on October 9th. We are still planning to be in person for our Limud sessions. And you can ask me any questions or ask me about the program itself at children@cbst.org. I'd love to talk to you about it. And we still have room. So if you're interested, please get in touch. And I just wanted to say it's been an honor to be in services with all of you today. We're going to listen to one of the most special things that we don't get to listen to a lot during the year, which is the shofar. The shofar is a very loud instrument. You cannot play it. You cannot make a sound on a shofar in front of your computer. You'll blow out the speakers. So we have a very an expert shofar sounder who is going to join all of our expert shofar sounders in a choir. And I want to see, when we play this next video of our shofar choir, if you can guess who is going to last the longest, and see if you can hold your breath for as long as they're sounding the shofar. Are you ready? Okay, you might need to take a really deep breath for this one. You ready? Okay, here we go.
Could anybody actually hold their breath that long? Don't let your Yetzer Hara make you prideful, but let it challenge you to try to hold your breath as long as Janet did. I see a couple of physical hands raised. 10 seconds before it ended, almost made it. Maybe next year. For our closing song today, you get to choose. We could listen again to that beautiful song that Rachel sang us in the beginning, Or Zarua Lat Tzadik, where she was a choir with herself, and it was very, very cool. Or we could listen to our CBST youth choir singing our Hineni song, which includes some of the people in this Zoom room. Rachel, how should people vote? You're really good at coming up with these two choices.
All right, if you would like to hear the Or Zarua video again, let's see some marching in place. Or if you would like to hear the youth choir, let's see some spinning in a circle. All right, looks like it's pretty close. What do we think? I see a lot of spinning in circles. I think that might be our vote.
All right. I agree. I'm also seeing some chat agreement. Our service will close today with the singing of our own Limud students singing Hineni.
I come with joy, I come with hope, I come with vision and intention.
I come with prayer, I come with love, with searching and sacred questions.
Hineni, here I am. I come with peace of mind. I know just where I stand. Here I am. I come with trust. I come with pride. I come with justice and
and with freedom. I come with history. I come with family, with knowledge and with wisdom. Yea, here I am. I come with peace of mind. I know just where I stand. Here I am. Where you go, I will go. Where you lead, I will follow.
Your people will be mine.
And your God will be my God. We welcome you with open arms, with joy and hope, with prayer and love. We welcome you with trust and pride, with history and family. Here I am. I've come with peace of mind. I know just where I stand. Here I am. Where you go, I will go. Where you lead, I will follow. Your people will be mine, and your God will be my God. We welcome you with open arms, with joy and hope, with prayer and love. We welcome you with trust and pride, with history and family. Here I am. I come with peace of mind. I know just where I stand. Here I am. Here I am. Here I am.
Hooray, and thank you to everybody in the youth choir. Watching that video always brings a huge smile to my face, which is exactly how I want to move into this year of 5782. We can't wait to see you on October 9th. Please come hang out with us. We have missed your faces and your bodies and your great ideas over the summer. And everybody's welcome to join. You're welcome to join at any time because we love hanging out together in our LGBTQ synagogue where rainbows are everywhere. Shana Tova, Gemar Chatima Tova. May you know so much blessing in the coming year. Thank you to everybody who made this service possible, and thank you for showing up. Otherwise, Yom Kippur never happens. Take care of you, and we hope to see you soon. Email us, and we promise we will get right back to you after high holidays. We were just a little verklempt with the new year.